Hi, I'm Tushar, a co-founder and CTO here at Attach AI.
And I'm Dakota. I'm the CEO and a co-founder here at Attach AI as well. So here we go. We're going to dive in. This is Otis. Otis is the first AI fund accountant, and Otis is there to do any task you would offload to a junior finance associate on your team pretty much, and we'll continue to graduate Otis until he can do even more complicated tasks. We're going to start off by showing you Otis performing a capital call. As you all know, there's a lot of steps involved with this, from memo creation to journal entries, trial balances, making sure the balance sheet is updated in real time if you have discrepancies between timing of LPs, maybe at the quarter close or not. Otis is going to do all this in 5 minutes. So let's get started.
Let's create a capital call.
So as you can see here, Otis understands there's some dynamics about what you need for capital call notices. We can customize this to your firm. In this particular case, this is what we need. So let's go through and do it. Create this for Attach Opportunity Fund 1. The amount of the capital call is $100,000. The title of the capital call is Q2 Capital Call. The capital call date is today, and the payment due date is next Thursday. Remember that this is for Attach Opportunity Fund 1. Awesome. And as you can see here, they're going to confirm the details of everything. But you can also see that, like, even though the natural language was kind of buzzy or kind of had some flaws in it from the Apple dictation tool, Attach was in the system was still able to understand everything. So then it pops up this module here. So you get Q2 capital call. Let's say the description is like, I'm just going to put something simple like capital call for Attach investment as an example. And then we'll go through and we'll say we want to add the management fees. Let's add it up above and beyond the capital call amount. Great. And now we're going to say we're going to create this capital call. So then the system actually works and starts to do this right now, and you can kind of see a couple things are going to happen as this memo line is loading. Just like if you tell a person to go do this and create all of these memos, it takes a second. So you're going to see this start to happen in real time. What Attach is doing behind the scenes is exactly this. It's going through and it's saying, hey, where's my LPA? Am I meeting the parameters of my LPA? Maybe the capital call I'm calling is too much for that LPA, or maybe I'm doing it for an investment that is not in the purview of a certain, like maybe I have a more religiously affiliated LP or something like that, right? So like there's all kinds of things that can happen here, and ultimately comes to a conclusion of whether that capital call is in scope or not. Here you can see details of the LP account, but of course when you actually have the memo created here, which we'll see in a second, you'll be able to actually go through and look at all this information inside of that call out. Great, now the memo's created. So you can go through and obviously we can customize this with the look and feel of your firm and the brand, but you're reviewing this for one particular LP and you can see all this information there. Attach is also smart enough, the system Otis is smart enough to go through and understand exactly the wire instructions for this fund. Let's say that you have 5 different subsidiaries of a fund. This will match to any of those things for this LP's account. So there you go.
Yeah, let's confirm the capital call. So once we confirm the capital call, you can also click into this row to see the different steps.
So you can see it all in real time. Generating a journal entry plan. Okay, great. Now it's going to actually go, which of course will make like a receivable for you. Now it's going to go through and select the different accounts that need to be created, generate the accounts for the LP transactions. It's doing everything. Generating the balance sheet. The system is reviewing or remediating because of course sometimes there are mistakes that it makes. We build in these review checks to make sure that everything that you get out is accurate. And so continues to go through this process, review remediation, just like a normal human would do. And ultimately it gets to the balance sheet that is generated and it's done, right? The same way you would go through and think, oh, this different piece or that different piece, it does all that same stuff. Generates this balance sheet and you see it here. Trial balances, journal entries, and the actual balance sheet. And if you wanted to look into details about how it made any of these conclusions, you could step in and see, okay, well, this is how I created it. Here's the explanation of how it did this. And so you can obviously use this all for audit trails in the future when you have auditors come in. So now we're going to go through on the other side and we're going to see this same capital call inside the actual LP portal. So the LP can look at the memo and say, okay, this makes sense. Importantly, this can be interoperable with any LP management system that you use, and we have one off the shelf that people can use too. Let's say this person was going to go take this to JP Morgan, they could copy and paste routing numbers, etc. So very user friendly. In this case, we're going to assume that this payment is done through this system. So we'll say, hey, it's approved. And you can see instantly when you go back on your side, it goes from pending to processing. So now it's processing this memo and your capital call has been, you're getting a reconciliation engine that's going to start. So now let's open it up and now you see post payment steps. So it's doing exactly the same process, generating journal entry, showing that you got cash received. I'm going through and doing all of the sort of processing that we just showed a second ago. You'll see Attach do this. You'll actually see Otis kind of go through every single step of this process. And it does take a second because just like if you gave this to a person, it needs to actually do all the different pieces. So goes through, generates things, reviews the trial balances to try and make sure that they're correct. And it tells you when there are discrepancies, what were the discrepancies. And the same way that you would go through and try and get all of these things together, it does the same exact thing. Eventually, it does review and remediation. It generates those journal entries for the LP transaction, and you get a full balance sheet generated, and explains all the reasons and review comments about how it got there. So you again have all of that as a background, and then it has the outputs here. Now, what we do with these outputs is they're also logged in the system, so you can take these and you can export them as a CSV, and you can put them into any other accounting ledger or system that you might be using. So that is what we do. You can also see some overview of all these things here, so you can see it more directly, and you can also see the different accounts that it created and kind of like zoom in on those accounts. So this is what Otis does, and we have a lot of other examples we can show you. We'd love to help automate a lot more of these processes on your team. So that's it for us. Thank you.
Thank you.